And all righty then. We're going to share screen. We're going to turn my phone down.
Yeah.
You got it? I don't got it because I can't find my. That's what I need right there. Where are you? Oh, there it is. Okay. This will sound good on the recording. All the Neanderthal stuff. Righty then. Okay, guys. You know, we often wonder what the heck we're doing because the rest of the world doesn't understand what we're doing. And sometimes it's kind of like that movie, The Martian. This guy was out there on Mars by himself for a long time. And you just wonder if you're the crazy one or if it's somebody else. Delia and I knew this guy named Mark Gorman that used to tell the Boudreaux jokes, you know, and his wife called him one night when he was out driving on the freeway and said, Boudreaux, we just saw on the news that there's a crazy man out there on the freeway driving in the wrong lane against the traffic. Be careful out there. And he says, no, there's thousands of them. And so sometimes you think, you know, you wonder if it's you or if it's them. But we've got something really extraordinary on our hands. So I start off with, there are times in history when things happen that we don't know about that changed the world. And some of these, penicillin and cars and airplanes, imagine how people lived before that. And when these came along, how long it took for these things to be incorporated before people would actually understand that this was good and didn't criticize it and didn't think it was something crazy. Think about bringing a radio or a TV into the house and that thought process of having to accept that. And then think about cell phones, right? It's like, I thought this was such a dumb idea, right? And now we can't live without it. And the pager was such an awesome thing, right? Now you think back and it's like, oh my gosh, a pager. And then the internet. And I remember when I worked out on the island and the internet was being introduced to us out there at Padre Island Investment Corporation. And they were trying to get me to use a laptop. Back then they were huge, a computer. And I was just thinking to myself, I have a typewriter. What possible reason would I have to use this crazy box here? And see, I didn't get it, but somebody else did. And what we're here to talk about tonight is there's some people that have gotten the future, and we've been allowed to see it. And because of that is why we're here tonight. So is it changing?
Yes.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, it's not.
It's not changing. See, that's never good. Okay, so let's try that again. Okay, let's see if this one will work. Okay, is that going to change?
Yes,
Yes?
yes.
Okay, so basically there's a new wave of change forming. I like to think of it as a wave. Starts off small and it gets bigger, and we're in the small part right now. So what's changing is the understanding about how our body works. And they discovered these crazy molecules, right? And then they found out that they couldn't stabilize them outside the body because they were too fleeting. And they've worked on it for years and years and years and spent millions and millions of dollars because they understood that this was something really, really substantial, but nobody could get it right. And so what happened is the story that we all know about, how Vertus Norton basically got his hands on it, and he was able to bring people in that could stabilize it. And he introduced to the world, which is what we're doing now. We're doing it. We're a small group introducing it to the large group that doesn't get it yet. Just talk to some people out here today. They're interested, but they don't really get it. They kept asking me, is that a pill or what? Well, you know, it requires an explanation. So it's emerging health and wellness technology, right? It's emerging. It's not out there yet. And it's being studied around the world. It's not a secret. And it's anti-aging, which is something we all need, all of us, and cell regeneration, literally to fix and repair and replace cells that are damaged. It's stuff that people have dreamed about. It's almost like the fountain of youth kind of stuff, right? It makes you look young again when your cells get replaced outside, and on the inside, it makes you healthy again, right? And then every cell in your body not only needs it, but manufactures it. Are we changing? We're good? Okay. So when did this happen? You got it? Cindy? Okay. So back in the 1990s, they discovered this stuff in 92. And then everybody got excited about it and started working on it. And in 98, these scientists here received a Nobel Prize for what? For figuring out the first signaling molecules, this nitric oxide. All right. And if you do the math now and move fast forward, there's been a bunch of Nobel Prizes given out for this, I think 6 or 7 of them. But here's what's happened is now since 1998, these scientists and medical people have been meeting. I don't know if they only meet in Paris, but this year and last year it was in Paris, France. They've been coming from all over the world. And if you go and look at the sites where people are basically coming from all over Europe, all over the United States to study and talk about this technology, then you begin to understand. Since 1998, when this Nobel Prize was given, they've met every single year. Do the math. 98 plus 24. Where is it? It's where we are today. All right. Every year they've been meeting and talking about this technology. Yet, here's what's crazy. Harvard and Duke and all these European universities are all studying it. They're all excited about it, but none of them have been able to stabilize it and put it in a bottle yet. And this one crazy little company up there in Utah has managed to do that. And here's what's even crazier. You guys and usins somehow came into the circle of people that knew where to find it, and we're part of that. And so we have this opportunity, which we're going to talk about tonight. And so people say, well, okay, it sounds good, and you got all these people that sound real good, and you know, you got a really fancy website and everything, but I don't know if this is real or not. And this is something I talked about last week. If you will basically go to pubmed.gov, which is the government National Institute of Health website, and if you'll type in, as I did there, signaling, redox signaling, it pulled out 38,342 results on just redox signaling. And you can put in redox signaling and then name your condition, and it'll go and talk. There's thousands and thousands of papers being written on how this affects these conditions. So this is not a rumor. This is not a theory. This is something that's beginning to happen, and in the future, it's going to be huge. And I pointed this graph out last time. It's interesting. In 1953, you see the graph was flat because there was not a lot of information about this. It was known, but they didn't really know a lot about it yet. And then look what happens here in the last few years. All of a sudden, the information goes straight up. There's a lot more being done about this right now. And then if you go to Google Scholar, not Google Search, Google Scholar, and you put in redox signaling, I see 910,000 papers, documents, research on these molecules that you can go look at now. People like me, I won't understand everything I'm reading. These are PhDs, these are scientists that are writing these papers, and they're talking about the excitement about this new discovery, which none of them know how to stabilize, but we have it. And so it's no surprise that nobody else knows about it yet. So what can we do with this thing? Well, let's look and see. This is the story of Virtus and Tyler, and you guys know the story. They basically were able to acquire the raw technology before it was stabilized. They were able to purchase it. They played with it. They brought in really smart people who were able to stabilize it. And then they began to give it to people and found out that they were getting extraordinary results. And then they knew that they had something really exciting. And then they brought in universities and pharmaceutical people, and everybody said that was impossible. You cannot have done this. And only to find out, yes, you've done it. And then the big hitters came in and said, we'll write you a check, enormous amount of money, generational wealth. We want it all. And you have to shut it down, and all these people have to quit using it and sign off on all these documents. They're not going to talk about it. And Vertus, basically, when he found out they were going to shut it down, he told them, hit the door. And so he said yes to us and no to the big money. And the thing is what it means that he said yes to us, he knew that if he allowed this thing to go into that black hole of the pharmaceutical companies, that it could be 10, 20, 30, 40 years before anything came out of it that would help the public. And he knew the people were being helped right then. So he said, no, we're going to give this to the people. They deserve to know about it. So that's why we're here. So the company was formed. They built this nice building up there in Utah, and talked to the guy today up there, and he said, yeah, it's going to be snowing here pretty soon up there. And they got the production center there, and they got all the crazy scientists up there. And so they're all up there doing this thing, and they got distribution centers all over the world, and they've turned into a really powerful cellular technology company. That's what's really important to me. They're a cellular technology company. They're about cellular health, and they've been doing all this research. And so they've come up with this group of products. And it's not like they're looking at new things to sell, I don't think, as much as they figured out, okay, you got the signaling molecules, but are people taking the vitamins? Are they getting the nutrients that they need? Maybe not, if they're buying them at places like Walmart, for example, where it's cheaper, where you get chemical stuff instead of natural plant-based stuff. So they put together a line of these nice products that are actually more like what you're supposed to be getting from the plants. And then they came up with all of this skincare stuff, because it's about taking care of your skin, which I'm told is the largest organ on your body. Haven't figured that out yet, but they tell me that's true. So you got to take care of your skin. And then they've come out with these cellular performance products, which are basically about feeding your cells what they need in order to reproduce, multiply, regenerate, and be healthy. And of course, we've got the flagship products, the liquid and the gel. And so they've come up with this line of products because these things are all required. If you're really interested in your health, you need to really address all of these different issues. As we heard up there in one of the conferences, if you're drinking a bottle of this stuff a day and eating Twinkies and laying on the sofa and not doing any exercise and not drinking any water and not sleeping at night, probably this isn't going to help you that much, because there's more to health than just the signaling molecules. But without this, none of the other stuff works, okay? So we are basically letting people know this has not been evaluated by the FDA. We cannot classify this as something that will heal or that will prevent a disease or cure a disease, because it's not a drug. Therefore, legally, we cannot say that. But we do know that if your body has enough of this, your body can heal itself. And so that's what we're telling people. So we're going to talk about some testimonials here. You guys have all seen this before, but the pictures speak for themselves. It's a before and an after picture. That's either true or it's not. If it is, this is a really big deal. 4 weeks, all right? A major transformation of how this lady's, face looks. When I look at this, I'm going, you know what? I mean, this is like cell regeneration. This is like this lady's been completely transformed. Here's a lady that had a major surgery, bad cells removed from her face. Scar, no scar, very little scar. What happened? I don't know. She used the gel, I'm told, okay? And between March and August, her face got a whole lot better. That's something that a lot of people would like to know about, because a lot of people are dealing with stuff like this, all right? You guys know about Rosie, picture on the left. She does not look happy. 7 weeks later, her face is transformed. Over on the right, 8 years later, she looks like a different person. What happened? Whatever's happening on the outside is also happening on the inside. We got to be cognizant of that. Okay. Cell renewal on the inside and on the outside. That translates to health. Who wants health? You know, people don't think about health much until they don't have it. Then all of a sudden it's like number one most important thing, my health. You know, you got to think about it before it goes downhill, because then it's hard to get it back. This is a kid, 12 years old, lives in Mexico, bit by a tick. And in a couple of days, he was really, 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 really ill. This is him in the hospital. And he was in a coma within a few days. He was in a coma for 17 days. The doctor said 5% chance that he will live. His feet and his toes started turning black. This thing started eating him from the inside out. He actually lost some toes in the process, and his parents were able to acquire some of this gel, and they put it on his body. The doctors would not allow anything in the hospital, but they snuck it in, smeared it all over this kid, and the mother has told us the story, and the grandmother. Within about 4 days, this kid opened his eyes. He opened his eyes. He basically said, "I'm hungry," and he woke up. Okay. And so this is the kind of stuff that was happening to this kid's body. And the doctors were saying, we have no solution for this. But the kid woke up. What happened? They smeared signaling molecules all over this kid's body, and he got better. Was that the only factor? Maybe there was some prayer involved. I don't know what all went on. But all I know is that's what these people did. And this kid is now okay. He's at home. He's recovering. We're staying in touch with the parents and the grandmother. And this story is still developing. But this kid was gone, and now he's back. Okay. This guy, you know the story. We met him at a conference in Dallas. He was in an elevator with the lady in blue. She said, "You look like you're in pain." He said, "I am and have been for 7 years. Fell off a building, broke my spine, my neck, fractured my skull. I've almost lived here in this hotel because the hospital's next door." And the lady said, "Put your hand out," which is kind of weird when some stranger tells you that. Put the gel on his hand. He put it on his neck as she instructed. And within a few minutes, he is now in this conference testifying. Within a few minutes, the pain was gone. He slept all night for the first time with no medication. Got up the morning of the conference with no pain, came to the conference and testified to us and said in front of everybody, "I don't know what this stuff is. I don't know who you are. All I know is I was in pain and I'm no longer in pain." This is a big deal. This is a really big deal. People all around are in pain, hurting, suffering, being told by their doctors there is no solution. This lady, you know her name, Rose Monday, Olympic trainer, went to the dentist in 2017, had major jaw issues going on. The dentist said, "May I put some of this stuff on your jaw?" Pain went away. Rose Monday got very interested, studied the technology, started to use it. Her doctors had told her she needed to replace both her knees. She was an 800-meter specialist. No cartilage left, wore it out running. And she said, "Give me a couple of months," drank the liquid and maybe used the gel. I'm not sure. And a few months later, the pain was gone, told her doctors, "I don't need the surgery." And here we are a few years later, never had to do anything further to those knees. That's a big deal. That's a really big deal. Dr. Morin, right, used the gel on half his face. On the other half, he didn't, because people were making fun of him, other doctors. And so he did this little 28-day test. Pretty brave. And you can see very clearly the difference between one side and the other. That, to me, is a really conclusive picture. And again, well, maybe it's doctored. Well, maybe it is. But if it's not, then this is a really big deal. This is a really big deal, because you can see what these cells did to one side, or what these molecules did to one side, which they did not do to the other. It made them better, smoother, got rid of the wrinkles and the lines and whatever those things are around your eyebrows up there, your eyes. What do they call those? Crow's feet or something? Anyway, you guys know what I'm talking about. The guy looks better on one side now, right? So this is Janice. We had her own actually about a month ago, and she testified about her problem with the shaking, right, in the neck. And this is her sister. I'm not going to play the video. You've already heard it, but I'm just going to skip through it. But Janice came on and testified to us that she had had this issue for a long time, couldn't write, couldn't hold a glass. Even at her wedding, the December before, she said my head shook so bad I was like, you know, one of those dolls on the dashboard, right? And she said, and my sister, and they're both registered nurses, you know, she said my sister brought me this stuff and I trusted her, I used it, and all that stuff stopped. In fact, she even told us that her doctor told her to get off of it because changing a beta blocker, whatever that is. And because she stopped using it for a while, some of that stuff started coming back. And the day that she gave this testimony here, she said, I started drinking this stuff again. That stuff stopped again. So it's a really big deal. It's a really big deal, guys. So remember, we're not claiming to heal or cure anything. We're just putting something back into your body that your body knows how to use to get rid of the problems. Your body knows how to do that. All right. So this is kind of a scary statistic, right? 50% of us are living paycheck to paycheck. That means that a lot of us are like right on the edge of financial disaster, right on the edge of I can't pay my bills, can't buy food, can't pay for gas, can't pay my medical, whatever. A lot of us are there, half of us. And so that means there's a lot of people looking, maybe scared looking. And so we know that life's a struggle. All right. It's not a cakewalk. It's a street fight, right, baby? The street fight. And so if you're doing it by yourself, it's hard. And this guy on the left, he's rowing by himself in a storm, against the current, in the rain, maybe a little cold. And he's got that grimace on his face. And he's probably knowing it's all up to me, right? It's all up to me. And if I quit rowing, this thing may go down and I may go down with it. That's what it's like to be by yourself and have to depend only on your own efforts. You know, if you get sick, if something happens to you, you really cannot keep it up. On the other side, you've got some people in a boat that are rowing together. They're still in kind of a tough situation, but they have a bunch of people rowing together. So if one of them gets tired or sick or loses his oar, there's still some other people rowing, right? And so that's the difference between being by yourself and working in a group. And that's what we're going to talk about. Kiyosaki, in his book, talks about these 4 different income streams. If you're on the left, you have a job, or if you own a job, it's the same. You're still trading hours for dollars. You got to be there every day or no income is produced. And if anything happens to you or your building or the economy, or if anything goes wrong, a storm, a plague, you know, whatever, a pandemic, then you may be without income. On the other hand, if you're on the right side of the quadrant and you have a business system that works for you, now it's no longer about you, but it's about the system. Okay. And if you have enough money coming in, you can be an investor where your money works for you. So it's better to have a system and or money working for you. This is like the people in the boat rowing all together, right? And so the classic example that we've talked about, that McDonald's restaurant by itself is like the man in the boat by himself rowing. They have one income stream. All the employees are depending on that restaurant staying open. That's what they got. And the guy who owns that restaurant is depending upon that restaurant to stay open. But if anything happens and it has to close its doors, that income stream shuts down. That boat sinks. On the other side, the McDonald's Corporation has lots and lots and lots of franchise restaurants all over the world. And they have many income streams coming in. See, they pull in about $6 billion a year. Whereas this statistic here says an average restaurant by itself pulls in about 150,000. So the corporation is not worried. They have a lot of leverage. You know, if Corpus Christi sinks under the ocean and everybody drowns, God forbid, well, the McDonald's here in Corpus are gone, but there's a lot of other ones everywhere else that are still producing, right? So it's a big difference. J. Paul Getty, I'd rather have 1% of 100 people's efforts than 100% of my own. It just makes common sense. You know, it's just common sense. And so if we are alone, we're limited to about 8 productive hours each day. That's about all I can get in because I got to sleep, I got to eat, got a wife, got a family, got things going on. We got other stuff. So you can only dedicate so many hours a day. You get tired. But if there's 2 of us, you know, if Felix and I are working together, then we have twice as many hours every day to get things done. We can get twice as much done. That's more productive. That makes more sense. And if there's 10 of us working together, that's 80 hours a day. We can get things done. And if you have 100 people working together, rowing together, then you can get 800 hours worth of work done in one stinking day. That's common sense. It's better to have a team than doing it by yourself. And so networking allows us to develop an income that no longer depends on our efforts alone. Okay, that's the key to this thing. Yes, networking, working with other people, right? It allows us to create more strength, more power, more possibilities, right? And so this is something I've added. Business, see, I'm getting like these thoughts, right? My wife likes, oh no. So business is about the distribution of either what? A product or a service. That's what business is about. You want to be in business, you're going to be involved in getting a product or a service out. That's how you make money. The business of Asea is global distribution of its unique breakthrough cellular health technology. That's the business that we're in, ladies and gentlemen. They have created, Asea, a system that educates people, allows them to access the products, and delivers these to 33 countries around the world. That's the business we're in, creating distribution networks in the United States and around the world. You need to be thinking that big. Oh my gosh, I know people who know people who know people around the world. And in 5 years, I'll have a distribution network in countries all over the planet. And whenever they buy a product, we'll benefit. All right? The bigger the buyer volume, the more we are paid. All right? It's that simple. So we have a global franchise that costs $40. It almost like some people, you know, if it was 40,000, maybe more people would believe us, you know, but it's $40 to get involved. And we have no competition. We're the only ones on the planet that have this technology. We don't have to have any employees. There's no warehousing of products. There's no collections. There's no distribution of products. That's all done by the system. And we don't have to sell anything, unlike other business models where you have to sell stuff. We don't have to do any of that. This is a business that never sleeps because we have the distribution rights in 33 countries around the world. Okay, so this is something pretty powerful for $40. These are the countries where you have distribution rights, right? Europe, Asia, North America, and now they're moving into South and Central America. This is going to be huge, guys. This is going to be huge. You got to start thinking about this. So here's the story. You guys know, excuse me, Jose Luis, our friend from a foreign country that I have been told it needs to remain unnamed because it's not in our distribution network yet. And so we met him down there, and he was a fire and rescue guy, really awesome guy, and a beekeeper, but he didn't make any money. He was making like $15 a month. He was starving to death. And eventually, this was in 2016, he moved to a neighboring country where we do have distribution, into Colombia. And in Colombia, Delia and I found him last year, and he was struggling. He was picking up stuff that dogs left behind at a big dog daycare center all day long and wasn't making much more money there than he was making before. And we talked to him about this idea, and he said, well, I'd love to do it. I don't have any money. So we helped him get started. And now Jose Luis is like in touch with us every day. He's got money. He just bought tickets to fly back to his own country of residence. He's got a distribution network in Mexico, Colombia, and Florida that is actually growing now. And it's pretty crazy because we got to witness that story. It's a lot of fun. And he's having a great time. And so this is basically the disclosure statement from 2020. You see the vertical column. It runs from $345 a month to over 120,000 bucks a month. Somewhere in there ought to be a sweet spot for just about everybody, right? That'll help you get over your many needs, right, Luis? Right, somewhere in there. And so what are these different income levels? Well, they're just people that basically may have started off as a director, small boat, a few people in the boat with them, but then they told more people about the technology and they got a bigger boat and more people were rowing with them. What does that mean? It means they just had more people that are now using the product. More volume means more money. So as you increase the size of your group, increase the size of your volume, they pay you more money. And so there's nothing to this. It's the same thing we do over and over. We share the technology. Some say yes, some say no. The ones that say yes, we help them get started, right? Buy the product. The volume increases, they pay us more money. And so residual income, everybody wants it. Everybody would love to have it, right? This is mailbox money. It's an income that comes whether you get out of bed or not. Very unlike the job that most of us work at, right? So this is not complicated. You just register with Asea, open an account, and you buy the products and use them. And then if you find some other people that would like to create an income or have a health challenge, you help them open an account, right? Buy the products and use them. And now your group's bigger. And then they probably find some people and you show them how to show those people how to open an account, buy the products and use them, and the group gets bigger. And the more the group grows, the more they pay you. This is not complicated. And then every Friday, Asea sends you a message and says, you got money, and they send you money every Friday. It's actually very neat. It's like, wow, that's awesome. And we see it growing and growing and growing. And so when Deli and I got involved in the beginning, you guys know this because I've talked about it, but we weren't really excited about sharing this with anybody. We were just basically excited because it helped our need. Our need was physical at the time. We weren't thinking financial, and we had some issues that were actually a lot of discomfort and a lot of things that we were concerned about because of our age. We were thinking this can only get worse. Probably not going to get better. And so when we began to get our results, we were like, yes, thank you, God. We'll just keep this to ourselves now and use it, you know, in the basement where nobody will know about it. And then all of a sudden, God whacked us on the head with Proverbs 24, 11, and 12 and gave us like a responsibility. God does stuff like that, by the way, sometimes. And it says, deliver those who are drawn toward death, and hold back those stumbling to the slaughter. If you say, surely we did not know this, does not he who weighs the hearts consider it? He who keeps your soul, does he not know it? And will he not render to each man according to his deeds? And so we realized this was given to us as a responsibility to share with other people. And if you know about it, you have a responsibility to share it with other people. And it doesn't matter whether they say yes or no. What matters is that you do what you're supposed to do and share it, and then let them make the decision. And don't worry about what they do, and go find somebody else. And these people, if they say yes, tell them we've got a system, hook into it. We'll help you at the beginning, but then the rest of it, go read this stuff. Go listen to this stuff. Go to the meetings, buy their books, get their cassettes, tapes, whatever, and learn how to run this stinking business that the company's giving you, because you can build a global income with this, and you're not going to do it working at Walmart. And so we have something in our hands, but it's up to us to decide what we want to do with it. And least but not last, if you're a 1, you may not be ready yet. You may have some questions. That's okay. We have a position for you. If you're a 2, you're probably somebody saying, I'd like to try it, see how it works on my health, maybe improve my health or maintain my health. If you're a 3, you may want to do this part-time, create $500 a month, $1,000 a month. And that's fine. We have a position for that. Or if you're a 4, you may be like Jim and Ann and say, this is what we've waited for all our lives. And we want to do this full time, work from home, travel the world, build a global network. We want to help a lot of people. If so, we've got a position for you. And so I'm going to stop sharing and see, have I run Jim off yet? Probably. Oh, there he is.
Not yet.
He's here.
Anyway, I'm going to stop the recording and just see if anybody has